You're listening to the Author Stories Podcast, bringing you the story behind the stories and the storytellers.
Margaret White,
Terry Brooks,
Sheena Kamal,
Matthew Quick,
JT Ellison,
Walt D. Williams,
Brad Thor,
Corey, Dr. O,
Brandon Sanderson,
Robin Mom,
Ernest Klein, Jim Butcher,
Sherwin Harris.
Visit hankgarner.com for archives of all the shows. Today's guest is World Anvil is a browser-based world-building platform designed for all world builders, writers and novelists, dungeon masters, game developers, and everyone else. World Anvil keeps your world setting safe and organized, helps you find your characters, locations, plots, timelines, and maps quickly and easily as you write. Then, if you choose, you can showcase your amazing world building to the world, beautifully and interactively, to keep your readers engaged. You can even use our professional tier to build your career selling access to behind-the-scenes content your readers will love and growing your community. Build your world setting in any genre with over 25 custom-built world-building templates, complete with prompts to inspire your creativity. Allow your readers to explore the public parts of your world in an innovative new way with interactive maps, timelines, and wiki-style articles. Give special access to co-authors, beta readers, customers, or patrons to see exclusive behind-the-scenes content. There's a free version to get started with all of the major features. Guild membership offers you a host of extra options, including comprehensive privacy settings, co-authors, presentation options, and so much more. Join our community of over 800,000 world builders, including professional authors. Take part in competitions and learn more about world building at this fantastic online community. Use the coupon code HANK to get 20% off all 6 and 12-month subscriptions. WorldAnvil.com. I'm a recent convert and I know you will be too. Well, thanks for joining me again for the Author Stories Podcast, where I bring you the story behind the stories and the storytellers. Today, I am super excited to have with me two authors who write under one joint pen name, and that pen name is Liv Constantine. The two ladies I'm talking about are Lynn and Valerie Constantine, two of my absolute favorite authors on planet Earth, and they have just released today. As a matter of fact, today is release day for their brand new book, The Wife Stalker. And I'll tell you what, if you have been saving your money to buy one book this summer, this is the book you need to spend your money on. It is absolutely incredible. Welcome to the show, Lynn and Valerie.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
Absolutely. So, we talked about a year ago when your new book at the time, the last time I saw you, was out, and that was a second book for the two of you, your sophomore effort, and I loved it. I thought it was absolutely amazing. Your debut book, The Last Mrs. Parrish, the second book was a bit of a departure in writing style, and I loved both of those. The Wife Stalker is again kind of a completely different animal altogether. Just to kind of refresh, if folks maybe haven't listened to the first episode that you were on, how did you guys are sisters, obviously, but how did you come to write together? Valerie, I'll let you go first.
Actually, our collaboration started over 20 years ago. We were both working, and we've always loved reading. And I think that probably some of our favorite books were books that were family sagas, and especially ones that had an especially ethnic sort of bent to them. So, reading about an Irish family or an Italian family, etc. And we just started talking about maybe collaborating on something about a Greek family, because that was something that we had not come across. And so we did that. We took about a year to write a book called Circle Dance. It was published by a small publisher. And as I said, that was almost 20 years ago. And then life sort of took its way, and Lynn moved out of town. She had little children at the time. She homeschooled. And so we just went our separate paths, even though we still remained sisters and best friends, of course. And then we picked it up again after a Thriller Fest conference, and I'll let Lynn take it from there.
Sure. So, as Valerie said, after Circle Dance, probably at least 10 years passed while we both, my job and Val did her job. I was raising my children, homeschooling them, and I decided I wanted to get back into writing, and I attended a Thriller Fest on my own and loved it, and it inspired me to actually build a website and finish my standalone thriller, which came out in September. At the time was The Veritas Deception. Now it's been renamed The Network. And so I told Val about the conference, and I said, I really think you should come with me next year. And she said, well, I'm not a thriller writer. And I said, that doesn't matter. It's a great conference about writing. But little did she know, of course, she was going to turn into a thriller writer after coming there. So the two of us came that the following year, and we decided to write a book together, which we actually ended up shelving, called Black Eyed Susans, which was not really, it had intrigue, wasn't really a thriller. And then when we wrote The Last Mrs. Parrish, again, we really did not make a conscious decision to go into any particular genre, but we just had the story inspiration and it came to us. And when we got our agent, she said, this is a psychological thriller. So we said, oh, okay. And that's kind of how we went down that path and have not veered off it since. And I think I've gotten a little bit probably deeper into the darkness of the thriller world with each book. Wouldn't you say, Val?
I would say, yes. It gets darker and darker.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. Lynn, you mentioned your other book, The Network, and we all know that Liv Constantine is also L.C. Shaw, and we love that book. What is it about writing thriller that is exciting from a writer's standpoint? How is it different for a writer than any other genre? What special does that bring out in a writer?
I think one of the things that appeals to me about writing thrillers is the fact that you can really go exciting and dangerous places without being in actual peril. We always joke that if anybody's looking at our Google list, we're going to be on a watch list somewhere for all of the different things that we're looking up and, killing people and poisons. But it's just interesting to explore the depths of human psychology and see how far people will go and create these characters, good and not so good, who do things that we would never do in real life. So, it's a great escape. It's a lot of fun. That may sound odd to be writing about sociopaths and these kinds of acts. But it's just really interesting, and so many times, especially writing together with Valerie. I mean, one will write a scene and then we'll call each other and say, I want you to put me on FaceTime because we want to see the other's reaction as we write it. And I think sometimes we like to push each other and see who can go a little bit more different and crazy than the last time, or more twisty anyway.
Well, Valerie, you two ladies are some of the most sweet, well-rounded, lovable people that I've ever gotten to meet. And you write some of the most heinous characters. And I say that with a big smile on my face. What kind of research do you do for, as Lynn mentioned, it's fun writing sociopaths, but what do you do to discover these kinds of people and to get into their headspace?
Well, some of them we know. No, I'm just kidding.
We met them at the family reunion.
But I think everybody really has, obviously we do research, and we have a psychiatrist, psychologists. We also do reading. But I think that just from being exposed to books and films, plays, that people have a pretty good idea of psychopathic behavior. And it seems that these are characters that people love to sort of explore and watch their deviousness and how they think. So I think these characters are familiar to everybody. The fun of writing them is that, as Lynn said, it's something hopefully we would never do. And I think it's the same sort of experience that actors talk about when they say, oh, I love playing the awful person, because it's so, you know that it's really nothing that you're ever going to do or be like, hopefully. But it's just, it's so much fun, and it's interesting and challenging to get into the heads of these people. And so for us, I think it's fascinating. And then the research has been fascinating. And the more that you read about the mind and how it can be perverted or deranged in some cases, it's just like, where does that come from? It's fascinating. Nature, nurture, things that have happened to us. So it's just a fascinating subject.
What about you, Lynn? How do you get into the mind of an unstable person or a sociopath?
Well, as Valerie said, I mean, part of it, I think, is a compilation of everything that we absorb in our reading and in our film and in coming in contact with people. But we try to really understand the motivation. And I think, it's been said over and over again that even, every villain is the hero of his or her own story. So we try really hard to make sure that no matter what behavior or what plot or plan the anti-hero or the villain in our book has, that to that person it makes sense and that it seems like they're doing the right thing. So, for the last Mrs. Parrish, for example, with Amber, I mean, it's clear she's just a very unlikable, very mercenary type of person, but she's able to justify in her mind why she's doing what she's doing. And so that's always an interesting thing too. When we talk about what is this person's background, what kind of trauma did she have in her life that would cause her to have these character flaws? What are the motivations? How are the ways in which she can really put her head on the pillow at night and feel okay about herself, even though everybody else can look at this behavior and say, my gosh, what a horrible person. So I think it's interesting. And I've always been interested in psychology. In fact, that's what I used to want to be, was a psychologist. And when I first started working on my master's, it was in counseling. And then I just realized I didn't know that. I think I'm also such a problem solver. I think I would have been telling all my patients what to do. I don't have the patience to sit there and listen for 3 years while they figure it out. So I kind of get to do that in my writing. I get to delve into different psychological things, and then, we can wrap it up one way or another in 300 or 350 pages.
One of the hallmarks of a Liv Constantine book is the unreliable narrator or an unreliable protagonist. Lynn, when you're creating characters, do you do this to us on purpose, make us fall in love with a character just to pull the rug out from under us, or what goes into the thought process of an unreliable narrator or protagonist?
That's a great question. No, I mean, yes, we do want to pull the rug out from under you, absolutely. But again, never, it still has to ring true to character. And sometimes we break our own hearts with character. Like in the last time I saw you, one of the characters that I won't give any spoilers for those who haven't read it, but one who we really loved turned out differently than we expected. And I think we both cried at the end of the book, and felt sympathy for her. So I think everything that we do, yes, I mean, we definitely want to surprise people. We want to have our twists in there. But once we do know the twist, we really absorb it. We just lose ourselves in the characters, and we make sure that we're developing them, and that what ends up happening is the only thing that could happen once we know that character, and that it is authentic to them. And again, we're dealing with very flawed people, so of course it's not going to be just a totally happy story. So,
Valerie, when you're working on a new character, do you know that this character is going to take a twist or a turn from the beginning, or does the character reveal this about him or herself as in the writing process?
I think it's a combination of the two. In some cases, we know when we flesh out the story at the very beginning, we give it sort of its general bones, but we also give ourselves the opportunity to write organically, so that as we're writing, things can change. It doesn't have to. We don't like to make it that we're constricted by an outline that's too rigid. So I would say generally we know who the unreliable or the character that isn't going to be wonderful, know who that is. But as Lynn just said, sometimes that will change as we're writing, because I think that we also get to know our characters better as the story goes on. We might begin with a character sketch that has certain flaws, traits, etc., and then those things become more. They sort of flower, I suppose, as the story is being written, and the character comes much more into its own. So again, it's a combination, I would say. In some cases, we know that character throughout is going to be a certain way, but then there's shading that happens along the way.
Your the characters in your books could be people that we would run into in everyday life. Could be members of our community. Could be people that our children go to school with. They're just normal, everyday people. But in the midst of regular life, things go crazy for these people. Valerie, when you're thinking of new scenarios, new things to plot devices to happen, what's the first thing that comes to you? Is it the character? Is it, and then start thinking about what can I do to this character? Is it an article that you read, something that's happened to someone? What's that first kernel of a story how does that come to you?
I think that you hit it right on the head when you said we come into these kinds of situations and these kinds of people in our normal day-to-day life. And that is where it starts for us, with a situation, normally, a normal everyday situation. And then we talk about it. And of course, as you talk about an idea and, this situation that happens, and the characters begin, you start talking about characters as well. And then what we try to do is take something like that just seems normal to everybody, and turn it and try to twist it and turn it on its head. How can we turn this upside down? How can we make this have a series of outcomes that are just different than what you would expect? So it has a lot to do then with expectations and what we would expect to happen in a normal situation. So we want to twist that around, turn it around, and make people say, "Oh, well, I didn't really think about that," or "I'm surprised that would happen." And that takes a while. It takes going back and forth, and that's one of the wonderful things about collaborating, because it's great when you can bounce ideas off of each other and then just keep going, well, what if this? And but then what if that? And so that's a big part of our process.
Lynn, how does what's that first stage of creation like for you? Do characters come first, or is it like Valerie said, and you start, bouncing ideas off of each other? What's that first moment of inspiration like for you?
It's the same as Valerie said. It's an idea. It's a situation where we say, what if such and such was doing such and such? How could we make it different? Or sometimes it's an injustice that you see commonly, and we think, how could that be turned around? Because we do also like to bring. We don't start off necessarily with a theme, but we definitely pull themes into our writing, and like to have a sense of satisfaction of resolution of what's going on in the story. So it does start mostly with that idea, but I think the characters come pretty quickly, and it's interesting because as we talk characters back and forth and we start to develop them, and we take our time with their names, and we'll go through a whole list, and then we'll hit a name and we'll both be like, yes, that's exactly it. Or we'll start going back and forth, and then at the exact same time we'll have an idea. We'll say the same thing, maybe they're this, maybe she has a brother, or maybe this happened. And it's become very serendipitous. I mean, our process has evolved over the course of the books that we've written, and I think it's become, each book becomes more integrative. Don't you think, Valerie? Like,
I do. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's almost a little bit scary. I mean,
yeah,
but good.
It is. Yes. Oh, I was just thinking the same thing as often.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Which is good, because at least it's great that we're on the same page, and then we know that we're going along that way. But then the characters, as they develop, I mean, I do find I'm thinking about them. I'll dream about them sometimes. I mean, I'll wake up in the middle of the night, right, and say, oh, this has to happen, or which is great, except not always great for sleeping, but good for character development. So.
Right.
Lynn, when the first book was published, The Last Mrs. Parrish, and then again last summer with the Last Time I Saw You, were you guys ready for the attention that you got and the reception that your books achieved and received? Because this was the Last Mrs. Parrish was just a rocket, and it just took the thriller world by storm. Were you ready when that happened?
I mean, we were thrilled when it happened. It was very unexpected, and every different wonderful thing that happened along the way, was a surprise and a delight. And because we just didn't know what to expect, and our agent would say, "This is so wonderful, and I hope you realize, guys, this is not the normal, trajectory for debut authors." We didn't really know. And yeah, so I mean, it definitely was extremely gratifying, but yeah, it took us by surprise greatly. Don't you think, Val?
I do. Yes, it was thrilling, but yeah, we definitely were very pleasantly surprised.
Well, the Last Mrs. Parrish was a phenomenal hit. The Last Time I Saw You went in some different directions, but again with a huge reception. Some people had some opinions about it, but what is it like trying to meet the fan expectation? When you have such a huge hit like you do with your first book. Valerie, what's it like trying to follow that up with a second book?
I would say that was probably one of the most difficult experiences of my life. That second book. You're so right. I mean, the expectations are enormous, and we really felt like we couldn't write the same book. Although I think, I think that a lot of people were expecting that. And as you said, The Last Time I Saw You was different. It really went more along the lines of a mystery. It was sort of Alfred Hitchcock, Agatha Christie combination. And so there were, I think, some people who felt, we really wanted more of the Parrish kind of thing. So we knew that there was this huge expectation, and it was difficult anyway. I think the second book is always difficult, even if the first one isn't a big hit. So that just exacerbated it. And it really took us a long time, longer than we had expected, longer than Parrish took, longer than the Wife Stalker took to write. And we labored over it. We definitely labored over it. Wouldn't you say, Lynn?
Yes. I mean, and I think the lesson that we took away, again, I mean, that book it is different, more whodunit type as opposed to person in peril as the other ones were. And we're proud of that book, but I think you learn that, you're not that you're writing to your fans, but the one concern we had when it came out was we wanted to make sure every team that we marketed it properly, that people knew that this was more of a murder mystery, so they weren't expecting. And what we learned was that if you're laboring over book that maybe some just go to the next one. So when we wrote The Wife Stalker, came to us like Parrish easily. We had a fabulous time writing it. We loved it. And we felt like it fit much more in the brand and is more similar, has a similar Parrish type feel. And then when we were working on our fourth book, we wrote the whole thing and put it aside, gave it to our editor, got a lot of comments back from her, not our Harper editor, but we had a freelance editor. And instead of trying to reconstruct that, we said, you know what, we're not that excited about it. We put it down, put it away, and we wrote a completely new book. And I don't know if we hadn't struggled so much on that, if we would have had the courage to do that. And so we did. Yeah. And we love our fourth, right, Val? I mean, again,
yeah, absolutely.
It came easily. We were excited. I think that, sometimes you just have to know when, and maybe that other book that we put aside, it maybe just has to come out later. It just might have been the time wasn't right. And it could have been the same thing with The Last Time I Saw You. I don't know, maybe The Wife Stalker would have been a better second book, and that would have been our third, but too late now. So
right.
It's out, out there.
Yeah, but that's important. I think you have to know when to put something away. Yeah.
Well, I love both of those books. The first two, and for completely different reasons, but those are both amazing books. And I wouldn't have it any other way. Just my opinion.
No, I mean, and we do have. I mean, we're negotiating contract for film for The Last Time I Saw You, which I think we're very excited about that, and I can really see it translate to the screen. So again, I think, and those characters, I love those characters too. Kate, and just lost the other ones.
So the Wife Stalker is releasing today, and this puts you in the unique position of having the third book, and that doesn't carry all of the pressure that a book 2 does. And you said that it was so much fun writing it. What was the first initial idea, Lynn, for the Wife Stalker? How did this story begin for you guys?
This one was another where we were talking about what we wanted to write. And I said to Valerie, what if there was a wife and she said something else, which I won't say. And as she said it as a joke. And I said, yeah. And we both started laughing and said, that's it. So again, similar to Parrish, the twist was the seed from which the book grew. And then once we started talking about, how we would do it, and the way we would execute it, that became a lot of fun and very so we actually went away. This is the one we wrote a couple drafts, and then we went away together for a week and polished it, working every day from I think like 6 a.m. until 9 p.m. in a little beach house in Boston.
I'll tell you what, this book, I'm trying to figure out how to say this without giving away too much for the listening audience.
Don't give it away.
The last line of this book is such a gut punch. And this is not for, I don't want people to go, flip to the end of the book and read the last line, because it only is a gut punch in the context of the rest of the book. But man, this book is different from The Last Mrs. Parrish in that The Last Mrs. Parrish, you gradually start to see the story twist and turn, and then by the end of it, you're in a completely different place than you were from the beginning. Well, in The Wife Stalker, I could see, the change coming from the beginning. I kind of knew where the battle lines were drawn, for lack of a better term. And it's still, by the time I got to the end, I was floored. I just couldn't believe what you had done to me. Valerie, could you talk a little bit about the brainstorming process for this book, and talk a little bit, if you would, about the characters of Joanna and Piper, these kind of archetypal characters. I know 20 people just like Joanna, and I know 20 people probably like Piper on the surface. What was how did you guys come up with these characters? And just talk about that, please.
Well, as Lynn said, it almost started as a joke. And then the more we thought about it, we really loved the idea. There was and since you've read it, you can understand this, that there was the question of how to get this down on the page and have it be, not try to fool the reader, or to make it honest, so that if you go back and look at what's been written, you can say, well, yeah, they never did lie. It was always the truth, the character's truth. So that was part of that. Figuring out how to get that on the page was definitely a big part of the process. The characters, Joanna, as you said, we probably all know these people. Maybe Piper, maybe more people know Piper. Piper is this sort of West Coast, new age guru who teaches yoga. She's into mindfulness training. Not that any of those things are bad; they're wonderful. But she's a little bit over the top.
Yeah. I could point you to 30 Pipers on Facebook right now. Right. They're little sort of positive sayings that they throw out, and that sort of become cliches after a while. So this is what she appears to be. She's come from the West Coast. She's sort of this mysterious person who all of a sudden hits town. She's beautiful, all of the sort of cliches. And she comes to Westport, Connecticut to live and opens a sort of health recovery center where people can come for yoga, mindfulness, training, different classes. And then we have Joanna, who is the one who adores this family. Leo is the absolute love of her life and the children, and she's older than Piper. She's never been to a yoga class, and in fact, when she does go to one, she practically falls over and hurts herself. And she's suspicious of Piper from the very beginning, and she comes to realize when she starts investigating her that she has this past that is sort of littered with dead husbands and dead stepchildren. But no one will listen to her. No one will listen to her warnings. And so she knows that this family is in danger. And that is her pursuit through the book, finding out just what is behind Piper, what her secrets are, and trying to expose her. So, Lynn, you guys have a way of taking unlikable characters and making us sympathize with them, and then taking likable characters, people who are acting rationally, but make it seem irrational when their fear gets the best of them. Could you talk a little bit about switching those roles and what it takes to make us like an unlikable character?
Sure. Well, I think one of the keys is to getting a reader to maybe be able to empathize with what a character is going through. So even if a character is not necessarily likable, if you can relate to her struggle and to the things that she's dealing with or the things that she holds dear, I think there can be an alignment somewhat with the character, and you can be rooting even if you're thinking, ugh, wish you weren't so whiny, or I wish you weren't so that. And then I think taking a likable character, it's sort of that whole thing of, not judging the book by its cover, or really getting to not assuming that what you see on the surface is always correct, which obviously it rarely is in life. So to bring a reader in to get to know a character that seemed like a good character, or somebody that you would like, and then slowly show through that character's actions or the reveal that what you thought to be true is not true, I think can be it can be interesting and enlightening for the reader. And it just takes, again, really knowing those characters and layering them and making whatever they do be authentic, even if you're not showing it right away. And sometimes we work with point of view as well. So it's more difficult, of course, if you're in first person when you talk about unreliable or keeping things from the reader, because if you're in that person's internal thoughts, it's tricky. But when you're in third, I think it's a little bit easier to disguise the true intentions behind someone's actions.
Valerie, you guys mentioned earlier in the show your Greek heritage and how you guys wrote that first book. In the Wife Stalker, about 3/4 of the way through the book, there's this great scene, Thanksgiving, I believe it was, where Piper's Greek mother-in-law comes over, and that was such a fun scene. What was the decision like to include the big Greek family for a meal, and what did that allow you to show us about the characters around them?
Well, we love talking.
Piper specifically.
Piper, we love talking about Greek food, of course. So it's a big part of the Greek culture, right? We wanted to, we had made the decision from the very beginning that Leo was going to be Greek. In fact, he is named after a cousin of ours who lives in Chicago. And of course, he would have to have a big Greek family, and they would be close. And so with Piper, I guess we wanted to show the sort of wisdom, maybe, of these Greek moms, not just Greek moms, but something about these families that are so close and where the mother knows her children so well, and has this sort of sixth sense about the people around her kids, and are they good for her children? Are they not good? And they have no qualms about being really upfront about saying, confronting somebody and questioning what their motives might be. And I think that really crosses ethnicities. I don't know that it's just, that it is only a Greek mom who would, have that sort of intuition. I think that's moms.
You're right. Lynn, the children in this book, Leo and Joanna's children, Evie and Stelly, really play such a huge part in the story, but also in revealing the character of other people in the book. Could you talk a little bit about writing the children and what role they play in the story?
It's always fun and a little challenging writing the children. I mean, my kids are now 19. It was easier when they were younger because I could remember sort of what they sounded like. But we tried to, with Evie and Stelly, I mean, Piper is coming into this family, looking for family, and so it was important to show her relating to them. And you see quite a different relationship between Piper and Evie than you do with Stelly. And I think oftentimes, or at least it's a stereotype that it's the daughter that doesn't really like the stepmother. So in this case, we wanted to kind of turn that around as well. And the daughter is more welcoming and liking her. And you've got this little boy who is having such a hard time and missing his mom. And, also he played a pivotal role, I think, in making Joanna sympathetic, because I think any mom can really relate to the agony of not being able to be there for your child, or your child's in pain because of this other woman in there. So the children, I think without them, I mean, they really are key, because again, it's all about Joanna trying to save this family and what jeopardy these children are in, or potentially are in. So that, they played a lot of roles in terms of shining light on character, but also they're very central to the plot.
This is the third book that you guys have published. What are you? I know you mentioned earlier the fourth book, and that you wrote one and shelved it. What are you guys working on actively right now, Valerie?
The fourth book has been turned into our editor, so we'll be getting that back fairly soon. So we'll be working on edits for that. And then we have a few small projects that are in the works right now that are going to keep us busy through the summer. And we've also done the sort of bones of book number 5. And we probably will begin fleshing that out more and writing. We'll start writing that toward July, probably. We'll begin on that. So we've got a lot in the works right now.
That's incredible. I know you talked a minute ago about the film rights for The Last Time I Saw You. Are we going to see some Liv Constantine showing up on television in maybe a chapterized type format?
I hope so. I mean, right now we still have an option on The Last Mrs. Parrish with Amazon. We're not sure what's going on. And as you know, of course, with the virus right now, a lot is on hold in Hollywood. So we probably will have a little more news on that in the summer. And then I don't know, the Wife Stalker, it's being shopped around and talked about. So, I mean, we would be thrilled either with a movie or a series, anything like that. I think it could work in either format.
Love it. Well, the Wife Stalker is available everywhere now. There are links to it in the show notes of this episode. Happy release day to both of you, and we're going to send everyone to pick up a copy. If folks want to jump into all of the great stuff that you guys do, where can they connect with you online?
Well, our website is livconstantine.com, and we're also on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter. Instagram and Twitter is at livconstantine2, and Facebook is Liv Constantine Author. And we also have a YouTube page where we've got some author talks that now we're doing weekly in this time of quarantine. So just to kind of connect with other people.
Lynn and Valerie, always a pleasure to talk with you guys. I love the new book. We're going to be talking about it all summer, I'm sure. Thank you so much for taking time to come back on the show with me today.
Thank you. It has been our pleasure. Yeah, absolutely.
Stay well.
Yes.
Authors, I have a fantastic new service to tell you about. It's called PubSite. PubSite is a service to help you build your very own website, your home on the web, where you can promote your work and give your fans a place to connect with you. PubSite is a website platform that allows every author, regardless of budget, to have a great-looking professional website developed by the book marketing professionals at FSB Associates. PubSite is the new, easy-to-use DIY website builder developed specifically for books and authors. Whether you're an author of one book or 20, or a small publisher, PubSite allows you to build, design, and most importantly, update your website pain-free. No need to be dependent on a designer or webmaster to make a small but costly change to your website. Save the money and do it yourself. PubSite is the best platform for authors because it's a book-centric platform. PubSite was built just for authors and small publishers. Every design, feature, and layout is book-centric. They have customized designs for you to use. It's easy to build. No coding or HTML is necessary to create a stunning, professional-looking website with all the features you want. Get a custom domain name, yourname.com. It's simple to update. You can add all of your books, add a blog and a book tour, sell from any retailer, manage your email list and social media, and even do e-commerce. Build your website with a 14-day free trial, then pay just $19.99 per month, which includes hosting. And we offer packages starting at $499 to set up the website for you. Pub-site.com, the place to help authors find their home on the web.